Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a video for everybody who is in quarantine today. This is the first day of the Drawing One class with me, Nate Infante, and we just got done and I left up the still lives that we were working from, and I just wanted to show you a little bit about what we did. So each table has a small still life set up. And they are a little bit, they're complicated. They're small objects. There's not a lighting, so that is a challenge. But I just wanted to get people starting to do structural analysis with their drawings, and I just want to introduce you to that with a couple little tricks. When we're looking at a still life, it's good to be looking for several things. I'm going to start by just showing you an XY axis. So like if you can kind of think of this as an XY axis, if this helps. So when I'm doing a drawing, we're only talking about structure today. We didn't really talk about value or anything like that. We talked about establishing structure on my paper. So one thing that you want to do is you want to kind of examine the still life before you start. And so like that might be, depending on the still life, there's a lot to that. So I want to just kind of take a minute, a couple minutes even, and just examine the still life. Look at the values, look for white objects. And what you really want to start doing is just kind of like thinking about spatial relationships, value relationships. What is happening with the lighting? Where's my light source? Do I have areas that are complicated that I anticipate having issues with? But mostly just start to think about, to examine my still life. Okay, so you kind of want to start with something that pops out at you. This shape right here is really pops out at me, and it's like a nice shape that I might be able to do a unit of measurement with. So like if I look at the top of this, if I look up, it looks like it's in line with this blue bottle from where I'm sitting. And I don't really want to change positions. Once I start drawing, I want to make sure that I'm sitting in the same spot, the still life doesn't change. But I'm just looking at different things, like the height of this appears to be about the same height. And I can find a nicer, something that's a little bit easier to draw with. Okay, so I'm going to use my pencil, and my arm is extended all the way out. And if I line up the tip of this charcoal pencil, I know this is not going to appear the same way for you, but the tip of my charcoal pencil is lined up here, and my thumb is lined up with that. So I want to make sure that my arm is outstretched all the way when I do this. I don't want to have any bend in my arm, because then my unit of measurement is off. But once I find that length, I can kind of do things like this. And if I put my thumb at the top of this here, and I go over, the tip of the charcoal pencil is the same. So this is as high as it is wide from this point to that point. So that unit of measurement is the same as this unit of measurement. So that's going to be really helpful to me. I can also take that same unit of measurement and just look for other things within the composition. So like if I go from the white plaster object and up once more, it's almost 3 high to the top of the blue bottle. Not quite though. Let's look again. Right there is the midpoint. So this height plus that is right there. Let's see, what else can we find here? From the bottom of this to the top of the pear is 1 unit. From the side of this bottle to the tip of that shoe is 1. If I lose it, so I keep going back to this object to find that unit of measurement. And from this side of the bottle to that tip of the apple core, the stem of the apple, is another unit. So you can see how I'm kind of using this as a measurement to kind of figure out where things are placed. Now, before I begin drawing, I want to think about my composition. Typically, we're going to be drawing things about life size or slightly smaller than life size, but not much smaller than life size. It's a tendency for everybody when they start, they want to draw smaller than life size. And so, today alone, I probably told people 3-4 times to keep from one drawing to the next, keep making your image larger, right? The object's larger, and it takes some practice. People are kind of resistant to that. So make sure that you utilize the paper. If I have a strong vertical element, maybe I want to work on my paper in a vertical layout rather than a horizontal format, right? If I have a strong vertical. But if I want to emphasize the length of these kind of diagonals, maybe I would want to draw it horizontally. It's up to you, but know this ahead of time, consider that. Also, I don't want to have all of these objects in my composition. You can see, this was drawn kind of small, right? This was pretty small, so you want to make sure, and also the format's probably not correct because the bottle is vertical and it's kind of scrunched in there. So maybe it would have been better drawing this vertically. Okay, so a couple other things. So when you find diagonals within a composition, you can see this diagonal here. There's a nice diagonal there. There's some like blocks and cardboard that create some diagonals. So it helps if you hold out your pencil and kind of think about what would this be if it was the hands on a clock, right? So if this was the hand on a clock, I know it's going to look different because of the GoPro. That would be noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So that's right about 2 o'clock. So that might help me when I go to translate that on the paper to draw like the 2 o'clock hand for diagonal. It helps just to establish like how diagonal the line is going to be. Also, look for some other things too, like points between things. Like I mentioned before, this is lines up vertically with that. I see an apple, a pear, and this round sphere object. That creates a triangle. And I can kind of create a triangle on my drawing pretty easily. This pear, this plaster piece in this bottle, the tip of that creates another triangle. So maybe, I'm looking for triangles within my composition. Here's another triangle right here with those diagonals. So look for those triangles. Also look for things that line up in a row. The ball, the block, this piece of wood, those all kind of line up in a row. This pear, look at the stems from the pear to the banana to the apple. They don't line up perfectly, but they create a little bit of a angle there that I can go back to and use that to measure. And that's going to be really helpful for me. Let's see. Do the same thing with the widths. If I'm unsure about something, let's see, I'm going to take the width of the plaster object here, compare it to the blue bottle. It's almost identical. The blue bottle is actually a little bit thinner. And then compare it to the sphere. The sphere is bigger. The sphere is wider. The width of the pear is smaller. So they're all very similar width, but not quite. Okay, here's another thing. Look for negative spaces. If you're having trouble to define an object, look at the space between objects. So if I'm not really sure if this is correctly placed, these two objects, look at the shape between them to see if it looks normal as in my drawing. Because maybe it's too narrow. Maybe that gap between the two is too narrow and I need to widen that out. So yes, look at these objects, but look at the negative space created between objects. And that shape is oftentimes very descriptive and can help you with your proportions and arrangement. So this is all about structure. I'm not really thinking too much about value right now. So clearly I have a white object or a lighter object and then some dark cloth here, some other things. We have some light coming from this direction. There's a lot to take in. I'm not focusing so much on values right now as I am just finding proportions and structural layout between things. I'm going to keep my eye moving when I'm drawing. I'm going to be looking around from one point to another point, looking to see relative placement of things. And this is going to be different for everybody when they're working. Okay. Another thing that you can do is think in terms of XY axis. So like if I have a Y axis and an X axis, say I have some sort of vase here. So I'm just making this up. And I have this kind of general measurement of unit of measurement here. I can kind of take this distance, and if I double it, it's right there. If I double that again, it's right here. And maybe there's an object over here, and maybe it is, if I'm looking for a triangle again, maybe the top of, let's say, a bottle is right here. And I might be looking at kind of the triangle that's created between these objects. I might be measuring, looking like right here. I might look at this curve and see what's happening in here. Is there another object that comes in? Maybe it comes in right halfway here. And it would come out on this side as well. Maybe there's another object and I notice that it's the same height as it is far away from this, and so it ends up somewhere right here. Not everything is a regular kind of shape. Sometimes things are different. So like I'm always going to be looking at the shape between objects, looking for like maybe the bottle or this vase creates an interesting kind of shape right there that I can identify. Maybe I can find a triangle right there to help with something. Maybe up here there's something happening, but it's only a third of the way from the top of the bottle to the bottom of the bottle. So I can make all these nice little sketchy lines, and then I just start comparing things. Where does this bottle end compared to this? If I draw a line over this way, does it make sense with where that is? Maybe it needs to be lower, so I would have to know that I have to make this bottle bigger, right? So if I draw a line from here to here, maybe that's accurate, maybe it's not. So like you just have to kind of keep your eye moving, and when you're drawing, keep your hand moving. This first project that we did in class these are exercises. We did 4 exercises in class. And so at home, I'd like you to do, try and do 3 exercises, okay? So I'm gonna walk through the first one with you. Use whatever paper you have, but try try to use whatever you have that's the largest paper that you have, okay? That'll be helpful. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be 18 by 24, but 11 by 14 is a good size. Just use a graphite pencil. That's what we used. I'm going to use this charcoal pencil just because it'll show up a little bit easier on the paper for you to see it. And I'm sorry if there's parallax error between the camera that I'm wearing and what I'm doing here. I'm sure it's not going to be exactly correct. So, okay, I kind of already did my measuring, and I just want to kind of go in. The first drawing that you're going to do a 5-minute sketch, trying to establish everything in there. 5 minutes is not a lot of time, so you're going to be moving. Your hand is going to be moving. Your eye is going to be you're going to be looking more at the still life than you are at your drawing. I would encourage you to set up a small still life with some dishes if you can, like some mugs, maybe some dish soap, or maybe some bottles of shampoo, and, you know, just take a few objects that are about the same size as these. Maybe you've got a water bottle. You know, just take some dishes and bottles and things like that, maybe some stuff out of the fridge, and put it down, make a little still life. It doesn't have to be as complicated as this. Maybe some silverware, that kind of stuff. And you're going to do 5-minute drawing. So that's fast. You're going to rush through this. I'm going to sit back a little bit and just so I can kind of lean my paper up. You don't have to do that. You can draw like this, but I like to kind of have my drawing here. And I'm going to just go ahead. Let's see. I'm trying to find a way that's comfortable. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to just kind of start with some structural stuff. Let's see. I want to get this ball in. How large do I want that to be? I'm going to say that might be too big. Yep, I'm going to move this up a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the negative space here between the bottle. And I'm looking here. That shoe comes down right about there. Okay. So this line of the bottle, let's kind of follow this up a little bit. Let's follow this down now. This object, it's like a little foam block. I'm just going to leave that as it is right now. So this negative space was kind of important because that's going to help me. That looks pretty good. It's a little bit off, but it's good enough. Okay. Now, let's see. If I use this unit as a measurement tool, I can kind of see that the shoe is going to come up here. There's a little angle there. I probably should have been timing this. I probably need to work a little bit faster. So there's a diagonal there. The pear, the edge of the pear is going to come down right here. The top of the pear does not line up with this. It's inside of that. So I'm going to come down somewhere here. It intersects this line. That's good. Okay, and I might have to make changes to this too. So that's not a big deal though. That lines up good. Okay, I think we're on track. I'm gonna keep going. This is that stick here. That looks good. We're kind of on track. So now I'm looking at this other stick right there. Hopefully you can see this a little bit. Again, there's another little kind of triangle, and the top of that white object is right here. And it actually lines up with the center. Remember, it lines up with the center of that blue bottle. And the bottom of this, the edge of the pear, this pear lines up just to the left of the center of that, so that's good, right? If I'm just drawing like a line there. So I'm just drawing that just as a point of reference. The width of this, if I go the width of that, so I might need to change this up a little bit. The bottom of this white object, the plaster object, is right around there. This might be a little bit too narrow, but we're gonna just kind of go with it. Okay, we've got that. There's a line here. There's a little triangle right there. You see that triangle right here when I'm looking at this? And then there's another triangle. Comes down right there. And this is all that black, right? This is all that black shape. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. There's a circle right here. Now that circle kind of lines up with the bottom of this. So just kind of get my hand moving and go ahead and make an ellipse. Oh, I think I made it a little too small. So I'm gonna go up. Right about there. Thinking about the hands on the clock again. Gotta round out my ellipse. It's a little bit kind of flattened. Not gonna worry too much about it. Looking at that board, and again, I'm looking at the negative space between the pear, this. I'm gonna establish that a little bit heavier. I wouldn't really want to do that. So that negative space, good. The rest of that board, good. There's a little cube right here, except it's irregular. Good for now. Looking at this negative space. See this space? There's a box right here, the white object, and then there's the paper towel roll. That space is too condensed, so I need to open that up a little bit. There's this little object here. Good. Then there's a block over here. Looking at the hands of a clock. It's about 1:30. And I've got another triangle right here. So the white object and then the piece of board here. So looking at that triangle, it's going to be about there. And it actually, look at that. See this line? It lines up good. Well, lines up good? Well, I don't know. Okay. Then we got this. I'm just kind of guessing on the width of that board. And then we've got this banana here. And that's gonna go up and around. I don't want to make this too thin. Where does it go? Comes out the back end. I just want to see where it lines up. It's about the same height as this, so I might be making it too large. So it should line up right about there. And again, I can establish the other side of the bottle. I can kind of look at the negative space here. That's that white block. Look at the negative space. I think I need to come in a little bit, or come out a little bit more here. And that'll let me kind of widen this. Go up with that bottle. And then we've got this kind of irregular shape. And the bottle is going to be off the page. It's going to be up here. So that's going to be off the page. And there's the banana. My apple is going to be, let's see. Let's find, here's another triangle. Looking at the, beneath the banana, there's a cardboard box. The edge of that box lines up here. So we got another triangle, right? Another triangle there. That follows through. So that's not quite accurate right there, because I have a little triangle right here. So let's get that in there. So making some minor adjustments. And then there's a yellow object. There's a banana and a yellow object down below. And I'm looking at the negative space. Looking at the apple now, the green apple. There we go. Okay, we got a little tube back here that I didn't draw in. And another little apple. Can't really see it very well back here. And that's it. So everything is in there. Don't think I'm really missing anything. Not sure how long that took. That might have taken a little bit longer than 5 minutes, you know, because I was kind of explaining a little bit as I went. But that's basically it. That's our first drawing. So we're gonna do this. Keep it very light. You know, I was kind of working with a charcoal pencil towards the side of the pencil, but that's it. That's the structure. I've got some structure to this drawing now, and I can start thinking about values next. The way that I'm drawing this time is a little bit different from the way that I would normally teach it, because we have to use a variety of materials. Typically, I wouldn't necessarily go in with line work, an outline and contour line to describe the forms, but I think it's going to be more helpful for you to approach it this way today. So that should be your first drawing. Do a 5-minute drawing, then do the same drawing again from fresh, 10 minutes. So do a 5-minute drawing, a 10-minute drawing, and then after that, you're going to go to a 30-minute drawing. And so same exact thing. You're working at the same speed, but you know, it's gonna be a little bit more helpful to you guys. So there you go. How's that? Hopefully you can see that. Notice I broke the picture plane. You know, it's pretty close to scale, you know, but I'm not really focused on value. So that's the big thing for today. I would do those 3 drawings: a 5-minute drawing, a 10-minute drawing, and a 30-minute drawing. We did do another one, and I'll show you in just a second. Let me turn this down. Okay, so the first time in class today, I just demonstrated using this one. So this was a 5-minute drawing, very quick, right? Just a little sketch, got everything down in there. Everything is there. And then I did another drawing. This was another 10-minute drawing. I think we actually did 5 drawings. So, but then we switched materials to this. So we started with graphite, which you can't really see very well. And then we did a 5-minute and a 10-minute and a 30-minute. When we got back, we did another 10-minute with charcoal. This is like a vine charcoal. And then after that, we did a 20-minute. And this is different looking from these other ones, right? It's the same drawing, but instead of drawing lines, I drew with bits of charcoal about this big and just kind of blocked in shapes and values. So instead of focusing on the lines like I did with the other ones, I focused on the shapes and values. I think you guys at home can go ahead and skip this for today. Just work with graphite or whatever you have, charcoal, charcoal pencil, whatever you have, and just practice getting structure. Practice your measuring, okay? Think about your XY axis. This was a nice one too because I had these objects like ellipse here, and then the apple there. I had lots of circles, lots of lines creating diagonals. Like the arrangement, I had circle, ellipse, pepper, like all those things kind of lined up very well. And lots of negative spaces and things like that to work with. So that's the main key for today. And we can take a look at a few other drawings. So you can see this is pretty basic. It's rough, right? It's blocky, but I'm just blocking in my forms using values. Whereas this one, it's rough, very quick, 5 minutes. Make sure that you set a timer and do the 5 minutes, okay? It'll help you. If you find that you're only getting a little bit of the drawing done, then you're not working fast enough and you have to keep your eye moving. This is an example of drawing that's too small, very small, too small, way too small. She had to really blow that up. Same with this one. You know, it's still small. She got it here. Look, much better scale. See, going from this scale to that scale, you can see it's a big difference. You'll be able to really play with values. You'll learn a lot more if you know, when you have a small drawing, you just can't get those fine proportional details. Nice loose, same thing, right? This is too small. Too small. Make sure you utilize the page. Even this was too small. So it takes some practice. I have to repeat those things a lot. This was a good drawing. Good scale. Pretty good scale, but a little bit slow. Trying to get everything in there in 5 minutes if you can. Move that hand, move your eyes. If you're looking too long at the drawing, you know, you're going to start inventing. You should be moving your eye back and forth very quickly. Good. Good drawings. Good scale. Okay, one more. Let's see what we got here. Very good. Yeah, really nice. Good scale. You know, they're repeating the same drawing a few times and it really helps. Look at the difference between those two. You know, good improvement, but the proportions, you know, are on. Once you do it a few times, you start to see things that you don't necessarily see before, and this was right on. Okay, that's it for today. So I hope you guys can find some things at home that you can work with to practice building structure on your paper, finding proportions, looking at your negative spaces, looking at your positive spaces, not dealing so much with value right now, but focusing on getting proportions and the general structure down. Okay. Next Wednesday, we're probably going to do more of the same, except dealing a little bit more with value. Okay. All right. I'll see you later.